this solo training series. I'm Sensei Leventis from the Academy of Self-Defense in Newport Richey, Florida. Continuing on with our solo movement drills, I was asked a question recently via email about the way I was teaching the Hanmi and the Hanmi Walk. And there were some valid questions in there, so I thought rather than answering this particular gentleman back verbatim in a few paragraphs, I figured since I'm filming, why not just show you? So that's what I'm going to do. Now, just to take you back a bit, those of you may be watching this video before the other ones, the Hanmi is a staple, it's a base, the most important stance in Aikido, in any Aikido style. It's an important stance because if you break it down, first of all, it's an L-shaped stance, so if my heels are going to be aligned, the back foot is a shoulder width back roughly, could be a little deeper depending on how tall you are or whatever, what makes you feel comfortable. As long as it's not too deep. The idea is for the Hanmi to be fluid and mobile. It allows you to keep your weight underside, underneath our hara, right, where our obi-nat is, which is, again, a very basic and important idea in Aikido. We want to keep ourselves very low and centered for a solid base so we can move fluidly. Now, at advanced levels, we use our hands for other things, for techniques, of course, but if you're walking here as a brand new white belt, hands are on the hips, elbows back. This encourages a good posture, not a slouch, and it gets the student to focus on just footwork. Now, once they get that, in my school anyways, the hands come up, you know, we're moving, we're stepping, whatever we're going to do, we're kicking as we're moving through the Hanmi Walk, and going backwards in circles and whatever, okay? We take that drill and we exponentially make it more combative and interesting, okay? Now, the Hanmi Walk in itself is difficult. People see it, they see you do it, what's the big deal until they try, because there's so many little things going on, so many nuances, okay? So again, I'm not going to reteach the Hanmi Walk, go back and watch the other videos for that, but I do want to address the question. The question was this. Now, before I even address the question, I have seen the Hanmi Walk done several ways. Okay. Number one, I have seen it, not in our art so much, but I have seen it where people walk through the center line with a forward attitude the whole time. Now, I like that going back, and I'll explain that in a minute, but not going forward, okay? Because if I step straight through with my toe and knee forward without even drawing any kind of circle, the idea for me anyways is that as I step through right here, it's kind of like for that moment in time, I'm on a high wire. There's no balance point here, okay? Now you're going to say you're only there for a second, I get that, but an altercation in combat, you know, half a second's important. So if I'm moving through here and I'm caught or pushed back, then it's hard for me to recover here. It's very difficult, okay? So that's why I don't like that. Yes, it's the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, and I get that, but not going forward into the danger zone, right? My opponent's here, and I'm moving through the center line before I try to take any outside line where I really want to be. I'm in the thick of things here, so I don't want to be unbalanced on the way in. Now, on the way out, I'm okay with that, okay? And I'll talk about that, you know, in the Hanmi Walk, but that's one way, okay? Now, the other way, and this is the gentleman that asked me, is the way I believe they're doing it, which is fine. Again, by the way, you're never going to hear me say there's only one way to do things. Now, there's a few things that I'm adamant about, which I'm not going to address here right now, but for the most part, there's more than one way to do things and do it correctly. Depends on your background, when you learned this particular art, what other influences you had, like in my case, that have shown you some ways to maybe augment it. I'm not going to say make it better. Augment it for different purposes, okay? And you know, it's up to you. I mean, take it with a grain of salt. I don't judge anyone. I don't look down on anyone. This is the way I do things right now. This might change. That's the beauty and the fluidity of the martial arts. You can't have an ego where things don't change. They can change. As long as there's reasoning for it, as long as it's tested, as long as you spend time thinking about it and practicing it, not just off the cuff, okay? So anyways. From here, the other way, the second way, is to draw that semicircle just like I showed you in my clip, but the knee is forward the whole time, okay? And then into the walk, okay? And again, nothing wrong with that. I have no issue with that whatsoever. For me though, I like to teach it for when we're stepping forward anyways, is we're still drawing that semicircle in the sand, that crescent or whatever you want to call it, to emphasize the circle, right? Plus, by the way, with these last two ways, my way and the other way I was just talking about, was that when you're stepping out here, and if I'm interrupted while I'm trying to take that inside line and get into the confrontation, at any point, if I'm out here, I am stable. Even a quick turn of the hips, I'm in a jigatai. I can step off in any direction as long as I have some kind of base and structure, and that's what it allows you to do. It keeps that constant base. That's the beauty of the Hanmi and the Hanmi Walk. Okay? So, I'm not arguing any of that. That's all very valid. Now, the way I teach it is I like to bring the heel a little more forward as we're stepping. And there's several reasons for this. Number one, from a pure movement standpoint for the new student, it's harder. And it's not a bad idea to make this movement harder in the beginning for the student. Only because this is a drill, even taught very basically, in any of these ways I showed you, is going to be hard. Okay? Students look at this drill and they're like, oh my God, this is a big deal, let's do it. And then they start to do it and they're dove like a fish out of water. Okay? And that's the point. It's a hard movement to do, elegantly and smooth. Okay? So, when I'm stepping with the heel forward and drawing that semicircle, it, number one, allows you to effectively lower your weight quicker. Okay? And you have to do this to try it. It's hard to show you on video, but if you step forward this way, I'm still dropping my weight and I'm still bringing my heel forward. You'll excuse me, it's a habit. It's hard to do the other way anymore, but as I step and my toe is forward and I'm drawing this, I can drop my weight, but my brain wants to say rise, right? And that's, again, from my perspective. Now, when I teach this to students, like I said in my other videos, that imagine a ceiling about an inch or two above your head. So if you rise at all, you're going to hit that ceiling every time. Okay? And at advanced levels, at super combative levels, even rising a quarter of an inch is a bad thing. Okay? So when you lead with your heel, it allows you to naturally drop the hips more. Okay? Just do it and try it. You'll see what I mean. So as I'm here, it drops my hips, and I'm low and I'm corkscrewing, or like I tell my students, imagine your movement being a helix. It starts very big at the top, and as you move through the movement or progress through the movement, the circle gets tighter and tighter. The essence of all the way of the applications that I do anyways, that helix is a very important shape. Okay? So as I'm stepping through, that helix gets smaller and smaller, and I'm dropping my weight as the movement gets quicker and more dynamic. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So by leading with the heel, it allows me to keep that weight lower. Okay? Now, and it's a harder movement, and it gets students to get used to that dropping of the hip, turning, and being elegant about it. Okay? Not in the beginning, of course, but down the road. Okay. Part of that, too, is, in my opinion again, when I step and I lead with the toe, it emphasizes more shoulder swing. And in the Hanmi Walk, this is one of the major things when we test students for yellow belt, is that they'll want to walk and they'll swing. Not a good thing. I don't ever want to swing to start to give my back and over rotate. Because as I'm doing movement, if I'm moving, say, against a backhand or something, I want to be able to keep my center line forward. I don't want to swing away. Okay? So, that's the other reason for that. Now, let's move on to the other reasons. And this is why I like it. I do a lot of training in FCS Kali, going on 6.5 years now. And FCS has a bunch of subsystems. Okay, there's Sikaran, which is leg technique, and it's much deeper than that. I'm simplifying it, but for me anyways, what I teach from the Sikaran subset in my art is a lot of the leg takedowns and leveraging Kuzushi using Sikaran. And so it helps you get used to that movement and to use it effectively. Also, from a striking perspective, a lot of checks, leg checks. If I see a kick coming, I can leg check that knee, I can leg check that hip. So by leading with this foot, it emphasizes that type of movement. Okay? Also, we have a crescent kick in our system, right? In my Dang Sudo training, our crescent kick was like a chopping, right? It was a big chop across diagonally, like we're chopping from clavicle to hip using the heel. In our system, we turn the toes out and we almost like want to aim with the instep and hook at the end. In Silat, and some of the subsystems of FCS, we use these to hook the knee and load the knee to break through, to compromise the knee and go and break balance and the knee, of course, moving through. So that also emphasizes these type of movements as we're walking in, this way, okay? So that's the other reason why I teach it that way. So again, grain of salt, whatever you like, this is the way we do things, and that's kind of the explanation behind it. That might evolve down the road, I don't know. I've been doing this now 28 years, and the last 7 or 8 years, my interpretation in Hangoshin has definitely evolved, I think for the better, but that's up to you to decide, of course. At least my students think it's for the better, so that's all that's important to me anyways. Okay, so let me demonstrate the Hanmi Walk one more time and talk about the reverse step and some of the differences that I like to teach. So I'm going to start over here. Okay, now stepping back, different from stepping forward into a conflict or into the danger zone in that I want to have that base coming in case I have to change angles or directions or what have you. But on the way back, usually I'm retreating, correct? There's no reason I'm going to step back after I step into the center line. Only reason I want to do is I want to get back out. Maybe I didn't see a counter coming, or maybe they draw a knife or a weapon, and I want to disengage to be able to re-engage, which is a very viable course of action, given the right circumstances. So from here, to reverse, I want to get out as quick as possible. So what is the shortest distance between 2 points? A straight line in this case, okay? So what I want to do is I want to turn my heel, which basically, not basically, but does drop my weight. So I want to be as stable as possible coming back. I don't want to retreat and be up. Classic beginner mistake or non-training mistake, right? So I want to be able to turn my heel, drop the weight, and get back as quick as possible, which is a straight line. So I'm gonna, now I've opened up that alley, or I've opened up that lane, I want to slide straight back, and there's my retreat. So that's why I teach beginners that, because it gives them a second form of movement, okay? And as all of you know who are in MGA, when we teach the Hanmi Walk in the beginning, there is no reverse step, right? We just have them step, and then if I want to turn over the back shoulder, pick up the heels and turn. That's how we go back in the other direction. But as we get it, especially in class exercise, I do have students move back and forth in reverse. I have them move in circles, and some of the drills that I've shown you in my other clips, we do all that in class all the time. So, but that's my mentality there on stepping back. Okay, I want to be stable, I want to be linear, I want to be quick and back. Okay, can I step in a circle? Yes. The problem with that, in the beginning especially, is misalignment of the Hanmi, right? So if I go to step back in that semicircle, I'm not sure where to stop stepping. Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? Right? Of course, after many years, you know exactly where it's at. It's a non-issue. But in the beginning especially, it makes things hard for the student. Okay? And again, it makes you slower retreating. So that's my reasoning on that. Now, going back to a few other things from the forward position, okay, with the heel forward. I talked about dropping, it allows you to drop the weight, it allows you to have that clean and elegant movement on the way forward. It stops the shoulder from turning a lot, okay. The other reason is what we call takeoffs in Kali. Okay, takeoffs are positions of quick reversals. Okay, and we do a lot of this in Aikido. We don't call them that, but at higher levels, especially in Randori and multiple attackers, we do takeoffs all the time without even giving it a name. But in this case, it emphasizes that movement. So if I lean forward with that heel, and I want to go off and retreat from this angle, someone's coming at me from this position, I can drop that heel and quickly take off. Okay? If I want to get a little bit more involved, as I step, I can say, I got someone coming this way, I can drop the heel and come back this way and face that way, okay? So turning that heel in allows you to do that, in my opinion, a little bit more effortlessly, and it involves some advanced movement at the same time, okay? So that's kind of my reasoning on the Hanmi Walk. Again, it's my take on it. It's colored a little bit by my experience in other systems. And at least right now, in this period of my training in this time, this is the way I teach it. So hopefully I made that clear and why I do it. And for my students, those are maybe some more things you can think about as you're practicing the Hanmi Walk. Thank you.